after about half an hour of intense IT issues, technical issues, we are here, we are live. Unfortunately, there was the connection between my streaming software and the Twitch channel was broken. My headphones did not charge overnight for whatever reason. The SpotterCord bot we used to stream music into the call updated all its commands overnight, and I actually broke some of the overlays when I was doing last week's stream with Sweeney, and I needed to update them in my streaming software. It's all done, we're here, good to have you all aboard. So, how are we doing? We finished the Roaring Horn map. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be making a map that will be played in the stream. It's not a dungeon or a... there's no real spoilers. We're going to be working on the... it's called the Watch Guard Post, a building in the southern ward that is probably the biggest city building outside of the walls and the gates. So for the purposes of this campaign, the Watch Guard Post has become sort of head office for the Southern Ward division of the City Watch. So, as you can see, I've done some of the hard work already here. I've taken a clipping from the very in-depth map used in the in the City System box set. And what I did for clarification was to overlay a clip from the clipping taken from City of Splendors that shows exactly where in this mess of buildings the City Watch, the Watch Guard Post is. Obviously then we just sort of cleaned that up a bit and then managed to overlay it neatly on top of the buildings. There's a little bit of mess. It's not 100%, but it's so close that we're going to go from here. We're going to use that as our launching post. Now, having identified S36 is the building in question, so we then just take a clip of these two buildings, and what we've done here is just put it next to the Roaring Horn Manor so that we can get a good idea of the scale. These are both clipped from the same digital copy of the book, zoomed in at the same level, so we can then look at the Roaring Horn Manor, which is 20 squares by 18 squares, and then we can make a similar we can make an estimation of how big these two buildings, or these two parts of the one building for our purposes are. So we can see that this bottom half is roughly as big as the Roaring Horn Manor, whilst the Roaring Horn Manor is actually a little bit taller, although, just to clear up something, I believe, yes, so on the map we were using previously from the interactive map of Waterdeep, that was rotated slightly, I believe. No, wow, can you tell I'm slightly frazzled after half an hour of frantic troubleshooting on a number of issues? So, we, hang on, I'm also just going to bring up the stream chat. We're just going to go ahead and move that over there. So we're going to start a new fantasy battle map, and look, we don't have too many options. This is probably going to be landscape because we're going to want to have multiple levels, and then we'll obviously just adjust the size of the map as we go. Now I'm just going to get the chat up because for whatever reason it's not appearing in my OBS. Normally I have the chat window appear on OBS, and today it's not. I don't know why. Everything changed in the last 12 hours. I hate it. I'm sure I'll love it soon enough, but for now I would like to make it stop, please. So we're just going to take a couple of minutes. I guess what we'll do in the meantime is just, oh no, not mask, sorry. We'll just, while we wait for the chat to load up. Ah, there we go. Chat's up. Let me just go ahead and pop that out. I don't want to listen to my voice. Oh yes, I'd like to pop the chat out, please. Hello to everyone who's joined us. Again, I'm sorry you caught me at a very frazzled moment, having done some last minute troubleshooting. I don't even see the option to pop the chat out anymore. Ah, there it is. Good job, Mikey. Okay, now we'll close the main window and we're off. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead, start by brushing up the entire map. We'll make it as big as possible. In fact, we'll just select the whole map. Get some cobblestones. At least for the outside. Let's check the size. This is going to be a large area, so the cobblestones are going to want to be fairly small. Let's go with that and hit apply. There we go. Now let's make sure we're showing the grid, and we need to hit resize. Okay, now we're going to pop back to Photoshop briefly. And so we know that the Roaring Horn Estate, the building itself, was approximately 20 by 18. Now it was from north to south, it was 18. From east to west, it was 20. So I'm going to suggest that if we'll zoom in a bit. This is horribly pixelated at this level, but that's what happens when you're working with very old maps in particular, and when you're working with maps on such a large scale. We're just going to drop the opacity down a bit, and yeah, it sort of looks like the bottom half of the map is roughly the same as the Roaring Horn Manor, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this top half of the map looks roughly the same, just rotated 90 degrees and in something of an L shape. So if we do some quick math, that's going to be about 40 by 20. We'll make it 45 by 25 per level. So we can close that now. Yes, we'll save that. Okay, so we want to add more. We don't want to make it smaller. Let's try resize map. There's the option to make it bigger. We're off to a great start already, are we not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we'll just we're going to need the map probably to be at least this big. Yes, we know. New map, this can be watch guard post. I believe that's what it was called. For whatever reason, the name of this particular building can never stay still in my head. We're going to Go to Adventures in Waterdeep. I know it's classified as S36. How can I remember that but not the name? This is got to be one of the more interesting quirks my brain has thrown at me thus far. Dock Ward, South Ward is after Dock Ward. 36. It is the Watch Guard Post. Excellent. It's not the guard tower. Convincing names. Well, thankfully, a lot of the names have already been made for us so far. Good morning, OMGM. Good afternoon, because it took a little while to get going. We are making a new map today. We are focusing on essentially the headquarters of the Southern Ward for the City Watch. So this is one that we'll be making for the stream that I don't mind making on stream, while it's more integral to the story than a manner of a family that I happen to like. There aren't really spoilers going on here because this is a building that they should all be familiar with at one point or another in their careers. We just have to resize the map because this is going to be a very large map. And once again, we'll just select the entire map and we're missing the apply button. There it is. Now, our first floor is going to be approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Already lost it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20. Okay, so we're going to grab the brush tool again, and this time, you know what, just because I'm going to put a very small dirt patch here in the corner. And what we might do is go grab that really dark paint that we had for shadow. And we'll use that to delineate the to create a border between the upper floor and the lower floor of the Roaring Horn estate. So again, you know, we're kind of looking at some of the boring stuff at the moment where we're just sketching out the overall map layout, exterior walls. It's all very boring, but you know, that solid foundation is what allows us to go a little bit wild afterwards. I think I broke it. Ah, there we go. Okay, so the building was roughly in an L shape. We're going to work on this bottom half first. That was about the same as the Roaring Horn Manor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That was brilliantly smart of me. We need to move this over just a wee bit more. So I'm going to do a second line. But this time we'll just quickly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that building, 19, 20, so that building's going to come to here at that bottom half. We'll just quickly paint all this back. Now, being an older building and a more solidly built structure, we can have a lot more fun with it. We can go up a couple of levels if we want. We can make a tower. More excitedly for me, I think we can also go underground. We can build some actual dungeons. I know we refer to almost any combat exploration map as a dungeon, which is, I guess, is a good technical name for them. But realistically, you know, there are probably very few dungeons in the strictest sense of the word in Waterdeep. They are, you know, there's manors, there's sewers, there might be catacombs, but narratively speaking, there aren't going to be as many dungeons. OMGM. Yeah, exactly. You know, I think any, short of using something really technical like combat maps, exploration maps, battle maps is probably a good example of a more modern word that we use. Outside of those, I think anything we use is going to be narratively restrictive. But that's okay. We know it's really just a thing. Well, we can't fault Incarnate, especially not while we're sitting here using their systems. So not being a rich manor house, I think we will give the watch house just normal wooden floorboards. Not necessarily that floorboards that big. Mm, 25. There we go, that's a bit better. Oh look, if someone from Incarnate wanted to sit in on this stream and have a look-see, I'm here for it. I'm entirely here for it. They have on social media though been absolutely amazing at looking out for people tagging them, using examples of their work, retweeting those, so it's always exciting to drop a tweet afterwards saying this is what we've done on Incarnate and seeing them retweet it. Maybe next time I should probably drop Incarnate's tweet in the hey, we're going to be doing this on Sunday tags, tweets, and they might be able to assist with building some hype for people who get hyped about map making. And then, you know, we've got this second building up here. And let's build that out of cobblestone. Absolutely. I'm here for that idea. So we're going to just put some slightly darker cobblestones. Not saturation. And we will that'll be 18, and that should go up to about 20. Okay, so there's a general floor plan made. So, because there's no interior made for the guard post, now why isn't that just playing? We can make this completely from scratch however we want. So, let's get to our stamps, open our catalog, and get some walls. Okay, we're gonna need castle. Oh, Incarnate have added Gothic horror now, so we can also look at some fancier types of walls. Interesting to say the least. Sculpture's probably a little bit fancier than we want. Enchante, no idea. Parapet walls. Okay, these are going to be great for if we do things like Castle Waterdeep or the actual walls of the city proper. That's going to be really exciting. We'll just hide some of these now. Catacomb walls, we don't want catacomb walls. Ooh. You know, do you ever see some updates on map making tools and suddenly you want to revisit every map you've ever made? That's me right now. Okay, this... I think we'll leave that for now. And... look, it's an older building. It's a solid building. Do we have anything that looks like an older castle? If not, we'll pull from the temple. Brick walls. Can't go wrong with some basic brick walls. Now, being external, 100's probably still too big. Let's try 60. Yeah, I think that's going to work nicely. Just zoom into this entire area. Okay, we don't need that overlap after all. Unfortunately, we're just a fraction too short. That's okay, we'll just bring these down a little bit. And we might 90. I do like to try for some consistency in making things fancy around the outside, so try and make that square as possible, and that shows us that we've got our exterior walls roughly at the same point with regards to that line. And then we'll just, there we go. Now we want to try and set these layers early instead of what we did last time. So these external corner pieces are going to be layer 5. The external walls are going to be layer 4. And we also need to bring this down just a wee bit. Okay. Damn near perfect, I love it. And while it seems like we're playing a little more heavily to the edges than I would be comfortable with, see, the lines look perfect, but the brickwork looks off. Obviously, honestly, I'd rather the brickwork look on than those lines look off. So there we go. Obviously, as you saw before, we can just drag and drop it, make the map a little bit bigger when we're done here. That's my lunchtime alarm telling me it's time to end the stream, but you know, we started late, we'll finish late. And again, we still need to put doors in, but that can wait for now while we get the external, while we just sort of sketch out a rough map of how this floor is going to look. And again, you know, from how the building looked in Photoshop, or the two buildings, it looks like it could have been two separate buildings that were joined together, or it looked like a building that could have been built in 2 stages, which is why we're sort of approaching it from this angle, as building it in as two halves of a greater whole. I guess we might as well keep working on these external walls and getting them done properly. So we'll use these really long ones. And the lining up will be less than ideal to begin with, but we'll fix that afterwards. There's the little piece. Something that I really should apply to more of my life. Perfectionism early means a much easier time of things later on in the picture. Okay, and we'll just grab all of that. Okay, we'll just grab that one. We should probably have these big column-looking supports at every major corner. Don't need that one. Let's just grab those two. Now then, if anyone, I'm curious to know, now that we've sort of finished out the prologue sequence of the campaign, I'm very curious to see where you guys, the viewers, are at with it. If you have any questions or feedback, thoughts about where they might be going from there, or questions about what we're going to do with our characters after that point. This way. Okay, that's very bare, but that's a good start. So I think this will floorboards seems to indicate the nicer area. Now we will, for narrative purposes, need a largely unused renovation wing, and you know, to really lean on the police procedural sort of aspect, I want a bullpen. So we are going to need some internal walls. We'll want a bullpen. We'll want, actually, you know what? Let's make some labels. That'll do. We'll also want a meeting room. Couple of offices for the officers. I just did that thing again. What else are we gonna need? General amenities. So the loo, for example. Holding cells. Let's go with records. You know, we need somewhere for our more scholarly type people to go and look up names, see if there's any case file history, stuff like that. Maybe a break room? Okay, I think we'll leave it at that for now. Oh, and of course, renovation, which can have a little bit of space associated with that. So, holding cells will definitely be in this more serious looking area with the flagstones. We obviously, I think floorboards would make for a pretty poor floor for a jail. Amenities loo can be in the same area, but we'll put that closer to the nicer area. Officers will want to be somewhere down here in the nice area, as will the break rooms. Again, records is not really a glamorous sort of space. It's the office where the librarians and nerds get tucked away by the hotshot cop jocks. Say that 6 times fast. Meeting room wants to be nice, and you know, there's room enough in here for the bullpen as well, which will want to be near the offices. And the any area being renovated will likely want to be up here. Okay. So, that's not bad. That's 4 large areas per half section. Let's do it. So now we'll get some walls. I think we'll definitely use this idea of making labels to sketch stuff out. Okay. Palisades, well that's no good. Okay, we definitely want some nice wooden sort of stuff. I remember saying in an earlier stream that getting to know the palette of stamps or placeables is key to map making, and then proceeded to completely forget that on account of... Okay, so I wanted to open it up first, but I think we are eventually going to go with these Victorian panelled walls. At least in the nicer area around the officers' desks and stuff. So yeah, we'll go with that. We'll zoom in here. Now, one thing I'm noticing though is you can see there's just that slight gap poking out. So we'll select this run of walls and just move them up ever so slightly. And I guess then we'll 15, so that'll be 1, 2. There we go. Okay, so shift arrow is 10. And also, you know, we are gonna need to make a doorway, so let's just go ahead and remove that short piece. Drag that over there. And you know, again, we're making this as we go, so realistically, there's no reason we can't just put the doorway right here. And we'll move that if we need to. Looks good for now. Is there enough overlap? Yep, we'll just close that up a little bit. Bring it right up to the line. Okay. Now, we're also going to want a waiting area. Now, what we know of the map overall tells us that the main entrance to this building is probably going to be on the south side. And again, probably another reason to extend the map a bit larger when we're finished making the inside, just so we can make like a nice pretty outside, some sort of walkway in. And you know, just for the sake of, and it's a bit more pleasing to the eye, I guess, to break up the pattern, we'll put, I'll just make sure that we haven't just made a gap. We've just made a gap. That's okay. We'll cheat slightly and just, now I bet it's going to be height. It's going to be height. Look at that. You'd think it'd be width, but no. Probably because we did this wall first. Those are rotated. Catch me out here babbling like a madman. Okay, so anyone who gets an office is probably going to be too high ranked to want to deal with the hoi polloi and the common babble. So the offices are going to be behind the bullpen, as are the meeting rooms. Break room can be over here somewhere, closer to where people are coming in, because again, people using the break room aren't as important as people who might want to have their lunch in their office. And we'll just also then make reception and drop that there. Okay. Let's find ourselves. You know what? No, let's go back to those walls, and again, we don't have to stick with those walls exactly, but we're just gonna sketch some areas out, so to speak. So the bullpen's going to be a large open area. Let's drop these internal walls down to level 3. The offices don't have to be very well, open, for lack of a better phrase. So we're going to just pop those in there. And what on earth are the difference between those two? Slight variations in the paneling pattern, I guess. Okay, so I guess we're just gonna pop him in there, and oh hey, we have corners. Brilliant. Catch me out here getting excited over corners in a map making session. We'll grab that and move that up to layer 4 because it's nowhere near the other external walls. And you know, we also have one of those fancy looking tapered corners. Have to send me a screenshot, please and thank you. Yeah, the good thing about having, there we go, and again we put that at layer 4 so it sits on top of the external, the internal walls. And now, oh, now this is interesting. We can break up any one panel into 2 panels by sticking that over the top. Whoever designed this incarnate, I love it. We'll delete that for now, we won't need it, and we'll go back up to one of these. Now, how many squares are we working with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Well, if we put one here, make that 1, 2, 3, and we put another one here and make those. Yeah, okay, it's gonna want some futzing about. Okay, that works. That's 2.5, 2.5, and 3 in the middle. It'll do. And what we might do is just drop the opacity of that label down to 0.5. Opacity or opacity? You know what? I can never tell. And we'll leave the label there for now. So these need to be transformed a little. Now, I think we've put them in the right way, so the height should actually be the height. Good. We'll put that back down and select the one we actually want to transform. 3. In fact, we'll get fancy and make that 2, so that that wall is almost secondary, as this is a divider wall, this is a more important internal wall, so this should sort of have layer priority, just for the sake of making the human eye, not confusing the human eye, I guess. We'll also drop this width down. Really emphasize that, you know, these walls were put in last. And now we can sort of move that. I have no idea. So what did we just do? 80 and 115. Now, also, another thing I wanted to put to the stream, particularly for some of you guys who tend to show up here at the map making streams more religiously, and I'm really grateful for that. I love having you here, and I love just being able to chat with some familiar names and faces. Shout out, obviously, ONGM, Razor Howl / God King Rising when he's here. Ryan Chessie sometimes shows up from Twitter. Now, the city I live in, the lockdown is starting to be eased, and the local game store where I would normally play on Sundays, remembering Saturday night in Freedom Land is Sunday here in Asia Pacific, that's going to be open again. So I really want to get back to my old gaming group, but I don't want to give up this map making stream. So we're going to put it out there to you guys. Do we maybe try and move the map making stream to a slightly earlier period? Move it forward, move it back a couple of hours, or forwards, whichever one means earlier. Or do we maybe reschedule to a different day? So have a think about that. We can talk about it in stream chat, but we'll also put something up on Twitter for more people. Because if there's people who couldn't make this session but could make a different day, we also want to hear from them, as long as we're not losing, you know, our loyal map making compatriots. Now, this meeting room does not need to be nearly so big. Bring that down here. And what we'll do is we'll just leave this open as a large walkway. And there can also be a doorway right here. Drop another corner in. Again, also big shout out to God King Rising, aka Razor Howl. He didn't even wait for us to make the announcement on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning that we had made affiliate. He came, he checked, he saw, he subscribed. Forever a place in our hearts. Okay, let's grab this nice and big one and just drop it straight in there. That's layer 4, that's layer 3, we love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I guess we sort of knew it was coming after the very first episode, when, you know, we hit our follower count, the required follower count, before we even streamed our first episode, which was absolutely incredible. But at the same time, the regular followers, now the map making stream is considerably smaller in sort of regular community size. One of the reasons I love it, it's a little smaller and more intimate. And so that's brought our overall average viewer count, concurrent viewer count down, but still well and truly over what we needed to make affiliate. So, you know, with you guys keeping the hype up and making us just want to continue coming back each week, Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings, for the actual show, Saturday nights, Sunday mornings for map making. You know, we easily we hit our required unique streams, and next thing you know, here we are, we're affiliates. It's a little overwhelming, but amazing. The biggest of heart hands. We'll also just pop a couple more pillars on either side of the door. Pretty much anywhere where there would be like some serious load bearing, we want to make sure that it's reinforced. So again, it's things that the... What on it? Oh, well, we can afford to move that over a bit now. That's good. These are the things that the human mind doesn't really consciously take note of, but at a subconscious level, it can tell the difference between a well thought out map and kind of a shoddy map. Again, it's one of those things where people will say, can't put my finger on it, but I love it. And these are the little details that we try to strive for. Okay, so the bullpen's going to be a large area. And we kind of will leave this walkway. It's 10 feet wide, but again, it's a really large building. It's sort of head of the Southern Division. We can afford for it to be a little bit more spaced out. Now, I guess what we really want to do with the bullpen is sort of emphasize that we're not making full walls. We're using partitions. So for that, and again, that's probably going to come down as much to descriptive storytelling. In front of you or behind the reception lies the bullpen, and you can see, etc., as it does in map making. But to create that visual delineation that tells the brain something's different about this wall and this wall, we're going to use a different set of stamps. So something a little bit fancier. Maybe even something with a splash of color to it. Now these could work in that whilst they're marble walls in the dancers court, we use those more as like waist-high concrete dividers. So if we were to use a variation on that, again, we'd want to make it a bit thinner, but it's sort of a visual callback. So we'll give that a try. And again, it says it's marble. It's only marble if we say it's marble. So what do we got here? What's the difference between this one? Oh, that's fancy and gilded. Oh no, that's gilded on the outside. It's interesting. So one of those is an external corner and one of those is an internal corner, essentially. And we'll put the gilding on the outside and we'll just shrink the hell out of it. It should fit well and truly within a 5-foot square. And so these being partitions, we don't want them to be walls. They should take up... Actually, I'm going to come at it from an opposite angle. The space in which people can come and go and move through that square should take up the better part of that square. Okay, let's partition. And I guess what we can do is just sort of overlap. No, note how these end pieces are half of the middle piece, so they're actually designed to sit flush with each other. And we'll leave do that, let's bring these down to also be level 3. The reason we'll want it to be level 3 is because we'll want things that are sitting directly on the floor, like rugs, to be at level 1. We'll want furniture, like desks, to be at level 2, and then we'll want things on the desk to be at level 3. So we'll want these, I guess. No, that's not true, because the external walls are level 4, internal walls are level 3. Yeah, we'll make these level 3. I just completely contradicted myself. Good job, Mikey. Okay, so we'll want to move this, create space to walk through. You know, with this not necessarily going straight to the end, we'll just leave a similar gap on the other side. And again, that's more pleasing to the human eye. Oh, that's a bit of a pain, isn't it? There we go. That'll work. Perfect. We'll do the same down here. Yeah. If we come down too much further, we're going to have an issue running into a reception area. So let's just quickly sketch out said reception area. We'll do that by creating a wall about, let's go with here. So that's 20 feet from top to bottom. Not bad. And let's put, so the reception desk itself can go maybe here-ish or here-ish, which means they'll be behind reception. Which can go maybe there. You can always change that if required. And again, we don't have to make this real pretty to begin with. We're just sketching out what goes where. Now, I think slight issue in that we've just created the world's largest break room area, but that's okay, I guess. We'll still need something like there are barracks. There are barracks at the guard post. Now, of course, we still have a second level to play with. But if there's a second level, we're also going to need a staircase. So let's throw a staircase in. Again, because this is one of the more large structural pieces of a building. Get rid of walls. There are stairs now. Why were there not stairs previously? Clearly I just did not see them, and that makes me sad. I would have liked these sort of ship stairs here. Now, if we want a stairwell, we don't want basalt stairs. Cabin. Perfect. These are the sort of modular staircases that we like. Just check carpeted stairs, we might be able to justify carpeted stairs, but we won't. We'll go with these wooden ones. Now, I'm of the opinion, mostly just from playing The Sims, that stairs should be somewhere with a clear flow of traffic to everywhere. So rather than sticking them in the corner, let's stick them right here, still on one side of the building, but halfway between the top and the bottom of this section of building. We're going to want to drop that. And, you know, I think a 10-foot wide staircase is probably a little bit too grand for the city watch. But, you know, if we sketch out a 10-foot by 10-foot square for each 90-degree angle, we get about 6 feet from one side of the stairs to the other, which is good. I can handle that. Now we go V, and then we hit O again. Yep, that'll do. And, you know, let's go ahead and add one flight of stairs here. Now, again, we'll just use our filters, change the brightness ever so slightly, maybe a little bit more than ever so slightly. So if we make that 80, and then we make this one 90, there we go. At a glance, we can see that the top of the stairs is brighter than the bottom of the stairs. Now we know which is top and which is bottom. Brilliant. Good afternoon, Mitch. Thanks for joining us. I'm blaming the latest 4 grey hairs on my beard that I've seen on you, but that's okay because it makes me look distinguished as fuck. Okay, so where were we? We just put in a flight of stairs. Gonna put a we're gonna have to sit down and work out our stream schedule. So those of you who don't know, because you mostly join us on the map streams, Mitch is our stream manager for the show on Tuesday nights, Wednesdays, and Mitch also runs a couple of other streams of his own. One we podcast together called the Mick and Mitch Show, and the other one is Shockmouths. Mitch was podcasting Shockmouths this morning. I won't say any further. Okay, yeah, let's get this break room quickly sorted. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, 30 feet's not that bad for a break room. We can put a couple of couches in there. And it leaves this area open in the middle that we can play around with. We really can't fire you, Mitch. We depend on you way too much, and you're just too damn good at running with the flow of the D&D game to switch between all the highlight scenes. We'd never fire you. We love you too much. Mind you, what's interesting is all the shit that Nixie gives to Tenzo during the show switches off immediately. Jenna just jumps straight out of character and then unloads all of the same shit on Mitch. So, you know, he's a patient man and we love him. Jenna is wild and we love her. Okay, so I'm thinking that Our end of reception could easily back onto the break room. You know, we'll just go ahead and create a wee bit of traffic flow, break it out my Sims knowledge. Put that there. Behind the scenes shenanigans of Law and Order are never not amazing. So we'll just move that there, and again, you know, it's a 5-foot doorway, easy enough. We'll stick a door in there soon enough, and we need to move this up to layer 4 so it sticks out on top. Copy, paste, rotate. I think we'll just shrink that down and fit it inside the whole space like we did with the meeting room. And now we got these 10-foot wide, well, 15 there, so do we keep that? Sure, why not? So we stick one of these there. Really funky little stamp cleaner smudger things. Down to layer 3, please. Perfection. And we'll stick another one of these right about here. Okay, so that's largely sketched out. I think we're going to leave this open. I could easily see this as being like a centerpiece for the floor. Maybe put a statue or a fountain or something nice and fancy schmancy that says, your tax dollars at work, right here as the focus of the floor. So we'll move up into the more... I want to say something like ugly, sinister, I'm not even sure yet. But definitely the older, more fortified half of the building. Now, the amenities loo. Now that we know that the door is going to be here, we'll stick this over here. Again, we'll just bring the sides of the label down some. The love of God and all map makers everywhere. Incarnate, please give us a click and drag to move about the map. This is got to be my one piece of negative feedback for your program. Otherwise, I love it. It's amazing. Thank you so much. But please, let us move around the map a bit easier. Or, if there is an easier way to move around the map, tell me. Anyone. Doesn't have to be incarnate. Just show me how to do the do. I think we can probably rely more on these heavier walls in this area. We'll move them again down to level 3 because we want the external walls to sort of visually take priority. This can be a large-ish area. We can stick some change rooms in here, we can stick some commodes in here, and we might even be able to have a crack at building like a rudimentary shower block. We've talked about how this being the beginning of the 16th century, it's start of a new era. We're going to play around with this idea of having a bit of a cultural, technical revolution as well, because that gives us some great storylines for a shift in technology at the cultural level tends to come with a shift in power at an economic level, and there's so many stories to be had and explored through that. So, I think showers are the least we can do as far as some funky new, almost steampunky sort of technology. We're going to have 2 entrances here. I think one down here that the people in the new fancy area can access, and then one up here where people can get to this area a little bit easier from this upper half, the north half of the guard post. Again, we've got load-bearing parts of the wall, so we'll just go ahead and stick those there. Once again, put them up to layer 5. Trying to be very pedantic about my layering this time, and see if we can avoid some of the headaches from the Roaring Horn manner. Yeah, and we'll just go ahead and stick that second doorway down there, which means it'll work. Yet again, but always better to do it now than later. Now, the records area, we can cheat a little bit. This can be a large area that takes up a lot of space because, Waterdeep's an old city. It's centuries old. In some ways, it has a millennia or more of history. But at least this iteration of Waterdeep as a city run by the lords, the nobles, the guilds, goes back a couple of centuries at least. So while the records from those earlier centuries may not be nearly as great, by this stage there can be an entire archive of records just surrounding the southern ward. So what we're going to do is just make a corner. So we're going to bring this walkway up and around to give the records more room. If it feels like it's a little bit of dirty cheating, it is. But I'm here for it. I love it. It sort of just gives us we're letting the mind play fill in the blanks for us by just, we're going to fill all this in with bookshelves. Okay, let's I like the idea of leaving a bit of space, like rather than having the wall come straight up from this corner, we're going to put it up from here, and again just create a bit more of that messiness. Three. That also should be three. What are we doing here? Okay, you could sort of imagine that this wall, for example, used to run straight down here in a single line before it was, you know, smashed up in a few places, new supports put in just to work around. Like, it creates this subconscious notion of an evolving building that really gives life, implies history behind the whole establishment. Now, the holding cells are going to be a large-ish area. And this means we can sort of have a couple of blocks. We could have block A, B, and C with a small processing area in the middle, maybe. Gives us plenty of room for this renovated area. And plenty of room also for this records area. So we're just going to drop that down there and see what it looks like. Okay, that works. And pop a pair of these in. And we'll look for just a tiny baby little wall piece. That's the best. Actually, that'll work fine. Bring that down to layer 3 and boop. That looks good. Okay, so, I mean, obviously we're going to need to rip some of these out, put some doors in, get some shorter walls. They may even be like a rear exit here somewhere, obviously not in the holding cells. Or there might be a back door in records or in this renovated area. But that can all come at a slightly later stage, I think. This, to me, looks like a reasonably sketched out first floor. We may shrink some of this back, but I would say at this stage it looks like we have a decent start for the first floor. Maybe we won't have a third floor. Maybe we will or won't have a basement. Maybe we'll just add a building on top of here and then another layer that only takes up here. So there's two separate first floors above the ground floor, with a spot in the middle. just to mix it up and create a bit more of an interesting building structure rather than just flat Lego blocks. But I like this. Probably the only thing that comes to mind at the moment that really sticks out to me is this little bit here in the middle. I don't know why that would be left over outside of just it's the natural effect of people moving walls around. So if nothing else, let's you know what, whoever's planning this, I like to imagine, would want to use the space more efficiently. Now they go up and down, that's been rotated, so we do want height. Getting the hang of this. Just gonna stretch the bricks out a little bit, you know? Okay, gotta change the one on the right. Now it doesn't need to be quite that big, and the stretching is a little more obvious, so we'll bring that in just a little bit. 175 is neat and appeals to my sense of numbers being fives or zeros. Okay, there we go. So we'll slip a shower in there or some storage or something, and that just seems like a better use of the space. Again, it's like I was saying to somebody on Twitter a few weeks ago when we were discussing the difference between character building and world building. And to me, world building, be it, you know, building large webs like networks, social and economic, or just having buildings here, is all about getting into the minds of the people who live in the buildings, or in this case, designed, renovated, ripped down, rebuilt parts of the building. How would they approach it? So I see this little 15-foot by 15-foot section and go, that's wasted space. How would I not waste it? And therein layeth the answer. I don't know how those went in at layer 3, but we'll move them up to layer 5. One of my favorite things about renovation is just being renovated areas, like we saw on the uppermost floor of the coach's court tenements, is creating that half-constructed look. This is where we can also use some of the more odd-looking pieces. For example, what if there was a tower at the back of this building that went around here, and that tower got ripped out, but part of the tower is still remaining, it's still in the process of getting ripped out. It also means we can come back and revisit this map at a later time and re-release it, but at a more updated stage. About right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That doesn't seem right. Neither does that. You know what I should do is just make it line up there, and then we'll just hit the flip button. Not that flip button, the other flip button. Still not working. I don't understand what's happening right now. That looks about right. So if that's the center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's the other part. Of the tower. Raise that up a smidge. That looks about right. Now we're getting an idea of previous versions of the building that are currently in the process of being changed. We're creating this image of a very nice, clean, modern build at the front end, and a very dark, dank, more medieval, even though we're still playing in a medieval sort of fantasy setting, stuffed up the back where we put the prisoners, where we put the nerds, where we quite literally just dump our shit. And where else to put a newly formed team of misfits that no one wants to like, maybe not, depends on how they go, but also up the back. That is, if you're worried that's a spoiler, that's literally the first few minutes, first 10 minutes of the next episode. So hey, not really spoilerific, you're just getting a heads up before everyone else does. Amazing reasons to tune in. So we have about 25 minutes left on this stream. I think we can just focus on this little area here first. So let's go look for a statue. Stop clicking on the... Doing a great job of clicking everything but what I need to be clicking on. Clear the stairs. Much better. Ooh, much. Okay, we have new statues thanks to the Gothic horror section. Statues that theoretically okay because of the flat back. Knights on horseback statues. Amazing. Okay, brass statues. We were really looking at the older, uglier sort of statues for in here, I think. For the Coach's Court tenement. We can afford to look for something a little bit nicer now. These are the ones we used. Again, because they were a smaller quality, we could afford to use other... we could afford to use the watercolor, less pretty ones. We can now use fancier ones because we're just in a better area. Looks like a nice, knightly sort of fellow. So... You know, this could be Pyranon Paladin's son, for example, who was an open Lord of Waterdeep for some years. Still too big. Let's try and squeeze in within this 20 by 20 foot area. And down to 25 because I prefer 5 to 6 or 4 because... Look, I'm not going to say it's OCD because it's obviously not, but we all like that, you know, it's like the thing on the stereo. You got to set the number to a neat number. Okay, this is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How is that working? Of course, there's just a little bit more space here. We're going to extend the break room. No, we're not. We're going to set him at that half point and then move the stairs down to match. Better yet, we're going to move him down here. We're going to move the stairs down to match. Where did we put the stairs? There they are. And then we're going to extend the meeting room. The meeting room, I think we can afford to make a bit bigger, particularly for those massive cases where everyone's on deck and we need to liaise with other parties, for example. So, you know, you could see there's this mystery of the Creel attacking on the night of the full moon, when previously his MO was to attack on the night of the new moon. That's an all-hands-on-deck situation. They could be bringing in people from other watch houses in the Southern Ward. They'll have people from the Watchful Order of Magists and Protectorists. They'll have... they might even have a member of Force Grey standing in to liaise, because Force Grey were bearing the brunt of that attack. As you remember, Force Grey is the adventurers company that handle all the big threats and blow up half the city while they're at it. Quote Chris Rock in Rush Hour, that block was already messed up. That doesn't mean we want it blown up, so that's going to be one of the driving forces of this story, by the way. Now that we've got this looking a little more symmetrical, we're going to move Pyrion Paladins and back a little bit. And we'll do something for this big walkway intersection. A fountain seems a little too over the top next to a fancy ass looking statue, so maybe a plant. And we'll probably put some plants or planter boxes in and around, just to add a wee bit of just a sense of life and dynamics. I didn't type in plant. Okay, so foliage. Well, that's fancy. I don't think that's what we want, though. What about garden? Flower? And I think, again, we keep coming back to elven flower pots. This might be a sign that we need to look at some better artwork with maybe find some free-to-use images that we can upload as stamps. Now let's just make it a wee bit bigger. Now if we were to stick that right there and whack a small rug underneath it, are they circular? They are not circular. Those are all pale and washed out. I remember this issue. Let's try something fancy. Zoom in. We're going to shrink this down a bit. We're going to put it down to layer 1 because it goes on the floor. 1, 2, just line that up with the halfway point and the line on the floor, and there we go. Now, these lines are going to bother me a little bit, but let's see how they look once it's zoomed out. Not really even a huge deal. I think we can make do with that. Okay. Let's start at the front with reception. We're gonna drop that down to, yeah, like 25%. Let's look for desk. Ooh, I'm really liking this gothic horror stuff. I will be looking for reasons to add more of that in. For now, I'd like to try something with this oval desk. We're gonna rotate that, make that level 2 so we can still have stuff on the floor if required. Now, we might have to change this walling a little bit, but generally what we want is to have this back a little bit from the front door, but we want the entrance to the bullpen behind this desk. So we'll try putting that there, and then what we're going to do is transform. I think it'll be the height. It will not be the height. And we're going to turn this into, if we hide this bottom end, we have already made, we've turned this table into a very fancy looking carved counter. There we go. Now, the plebs are not going to get comfy seats to sit on. If you've ever been to any kind of government agency, be that Centrelink here in Australia, WINS in New Zealand, or hell, I don't know, that place you go to for your cars and stuff in America. I know that's well known and hated. I just forget what it's called. You sit on uncomfortable rows of chairs, and in a place like Waterdeep, they're going to be benches. It can be fancy enough to have a backing on it at least. And we're going to put them against the walls. We could splash out and give the receptionist a comfy seat, on account of the receptionist is probably going to be there most of the day. Okay. Now why are things at level 2? We're going to have to visit the grid for a moment. And, oh, the grid is at level 3. Well, that's no good. The grid needs to be at level 0. Much better. Okay, and now we'll just copy that and go paste, paste, and we'll just leave a little bit of space here. Oh, let's grab this carpet and tuck it here. And if we just sort of extend the, is it going to be height? It is going to be height. Hey, we got it. If we just sort of extend that like that, you know what we've done, particularly if we hide the reception, we'll just move the reception layer out of the way, sort of created this visual idea of this is form an orderly queue here, please. We'll just, I think for now, we're just going to make the reception tag, we're just going to drop the opacity completely out of the way. It's there when we want it, and we'll just chuck a few plants in. How does that sound? They can have slightly poorer looking plants. This is one where these random stamps probably aren't too bad an idea. Okay, that is still playing. And a fancier plant or two behind the desk. Let's set that to 0. Okay. This music has decided to go very, very quiet. Let's just grab that. Now, we probably also just want to quickly stick a door in there. Okay, a moment. Trapdoor. I don't think I've noticed that before. Lancet door. Hello. That looks like a nice solid door. I'm loving this gothic horror thing. Drop that there. And we'll just increase the size a little bit. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Liking how this looks an awful lot. I think we might leave it there for the day. Getting on to our 2 hours, and short of starting a completely new area, I think this will do us for now. If you've got any ideas, questions, or theories, feel free to float them. Otherwise, I think we're going to end it here. We'll see if maybe even Mr. Tom Sweeney or one of the other cast members wants to join us again next week. And we did talk about doing Law and Disorder. Unfortunately, I'm gonna take the blame for that one. I needed to follow up on a few people. That didn't happen, so we're hoping that we'll get that going this week, or I should say next week, a couple of days after episode 5, start of chapter 2. So at this point, we're probably going to be playing some Jackbox Party Pack, so expect some Quiplash or maybe a few other options. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Also, there's a few people who, for example, average taxpayer, I want to give a shout out to you. We've seen you in pretty much every chat. You don't say a lot, but you're here every time. I've seen you following us on Twitter. And, you know, even just those people who just show up to give their support means so much. Also, again, shout out to all those people who come in, comment on our Twitter feed, and chat to us whilst we do the. To you too, mate. Yeah, it's just for a stream this new to be where we're at already is really a team effort, and what comes in from your side of the screen really encourages us on our side of the screen. So I am really excited to see where we all of us can take Law and Order in the coming weeks, the coming months, and possibly even the coming years. I'm excited. So again, thanks for tuning in. We will see you again theoretically on Tuesday night if you're in Freedom Land, Wednesday morning if you're down here in the Pacific, and please do not forget, all Watchmen are bastards.